Hi everyone, welcome to our Leaders, Innovators and Disruptors event today on innovation and tech trends with Enrico Tam. I would like to start the event by playing our Welcome to Country video spoken by Auntie Julie Jensen.
Welcome. We acknowledge the traditional custodians of Macquarie University land, the Wadamadigal clan of the Darug Nation, whose cultures and customs have nurtured this land since the Dreamtime. We pay our respects to elders past, present and future. We welcome people of all nations and all faiths. Kwai Bidja, Jamna Payala Janawi. Come here, we speak together. We have 60,000 years of archaeological evidence of Aboriginal habitation at Lake Mungo and 20,000 years in Ryde. We have great antiquity. Today, hundreds of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people graduate from Macquarie University. The Darug Nation had famous leaders such as Chief Yarramundi, Naraginji, Colby and Maria Locke. Many of the descendants of these Darug people live today amongst you. We celebrate with you our ongoing attachment and custodianship of this country. We celebrate the achievements of Macquarie University. Welcome.
I too would like to acknowledge the custodians of the lands on which we meet today and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. So thank you again for joining us today. We've got an exciting event lined up for you. Before I introduce today's speaker, I wanted to mention that applications for our new cohort are open now. Applications close on Monday, the 7th of December. So please spread the word around your networks. At the incubator, we provide you with bespoke education programs and workshops to accelerate your startup's development, as well as a great selection of mentors, including Enrico. A link to our website is in the chat box for more information, and don't forget to sign up to our newsletter to keep up to date with news and events. Next Thursday, the 5th of November, we also have our pitch final. We'll put the registration link in the chat box for those that would like to attend. We're very fortunate to have an exciting lineup of judges. As you can see, we've got Fred Shabester. He's Macquarie alumni and co-founder of Finder and Finder app. Anna Groszkowski is the Director of Commercialization and Innovation at Macquarie University. Hamish Hawthorne is the COO of GuardUp and co-founder of Sydney Angels. Jill McKnight is the practice leader at Legal Vision, and Natasha Rawlings is an investment manager at UniSeed. So jump onto the Humanitics site in the chat box to find out more about our judges and our finalists here from the incubator. Okay, so now to introduce today's speaker. After trying to become a professional tennis player, Enrico somehow got engaged in a PhD in engineering, an MBA program, and a big consulting firm before being drawn into the startup world. Enrico is now a successful tech entrepreneur, consultant, and advisor. He's passionate about building and delivering new projects, as well as helping other entrepreneurs succeed with innovation. He's successfully launched several businesses from scratch and grown them to 7 figures. That journey provided Enrico with extensive business experience in management and sales, as well as the know-how on building scalable tech products. Welcome, Enrico.
Thank you very much, Nicola, for this very nice introduction and presentation, and welcome everyone. It's nice to see some familiar names in the audience. Let me maybe share my screen so everybody, just 1 second for me to be able to share my presentation and get started. Couple of checks from everyone. Presentation is there. Is it visible by everyone? Perfect. Am I audible and visible just fine? Perfect, thank you. So let's get started. So today we will be discussing innovation, digital strategies, and success. I don't want to pretend to be the one that knows everything about this, okay? So I'm going to share my experience, but feel free to make this presentation conversational. If you want to give any kind of feedback, or if you have any question during my presentation, please feel free to jump in, okay? I'm always in a mindset to try to learn from each other more than just giving you my my knowledge, right? So with that in mind, the question that I would like to try to answer today is, how come some people, organizations, companies, startups seem to succeed more often than others, right? And we're gonna try to answer that question through the lenses of information. The first, in terms of outline of my presentation, the first thing that we will do is defining innovation, right? Then we will go into understanding why you have to innovate, both in, I guess, personal life and professional life. We will end with a chapter on disruptive technologies that are shaping the world right now and will be changing and disrupting the world for the next many years. And we will finish with a Q&A where I'll be more than happy to take feedback and questions. Now, let's get started. Innovation, right? What is it? If you go on Google, you will probably find so many different definitions of innovation. My personal definition of innovation is that it's about understanding the problems, needs, and dreams that people have and being able to solve them or realizing them, if it's dreams, through the implementation of a solution that is perceived as new. This is my personal definition. And I was lucky enough to, like in my professional career, to see innovation from different angles. When I was a PhD student and later on as a scientist, I was in what I call the doing innovation phase. Think about that. During my PhD, I had to come up with materials that were not there. Right? I was the first one to build such materials, and this phase is what I call the doing phase, doing innovation phase. Then when I was a deputy director in a large R&D facility, I was more in the enabling innovation phase. I had 50 people in the team that I had to, it was actually different departments doing different things, and I had to make sure that everybody was aligned. And my role there was purely enabling innovation. I wasn't doing it anymore. But then again, when I was hired as a manager in a large tech consulting firm, there I was not enabling innovation internally anymore in my organization. I had to help other companies do innovation or implement innovation strategies effectively. And also I was lucky enough to be involved with lecturing at university, where there I call this phase the empowering innovation phase, which has to do with giving people the right mindset for them to be able to innovate and succeed. As a startup founder, which is what I've been doing the last 10 years, pretty much, I had to bring all these concepts together, right? The doing innovation, I still do it right now. I code and do all sorts of crazy things. And I'm into the enabling phase in my organizations, helping either other startups or my own team and empowering people around me. So all of this gave me an idea of what you have to do to be innovative and succeed, okay? So the question is, why some people, companies succeed more often? Well, to me, it's because they have found the right ingredients to be successful, right? They succeed, these people and organizations succeed more often because they've found a pattern that they follow systematically, and this pattern makes them successful, okay? So I want to demystify success and innovation today. The three ingredients to innovate and succeed, to me, they are, and by the way, I call them ingredients because I like to cook, right? And I would make analogies to cooking. As every good Italian, you know, I like to prepare dishes, and I call them ingredients. Some other people call them steps, but I like to call them ingredients. So the first three ingredients are: one, you need to be able to find a problem to solve. And you might think this is easy. It's not easy. Like, it's very common to focus on the wrong things. And if you don't have the right problem to solve, there's no way you will be able to succeed and innovate. The second ingredient is that you need to look around you and be able to see the opportunities that are there for you to grasp. If you can't see them, then again, there's no way you can leverage them to be successful. And in this regard, new technologies, where we see at the end of the presentation, are opportunities, okay, for you to grasp and do something new and innovative. The third ingredient is that, fine, you've got the problem, you've got the opportunities around you, but if you're afraid of taking action and try to leverage these opportunities, then you will never succeed, okay? And to demystify innovation and success, let me give you an example of how people can use these three ingredients in their daily life, okay? With a presentation of how I actually use them since I was a very young kid. My dream when I was very little, I think when I was 7 or 8, I realized that my dream was to go around the world, discover new people, speak different languages, and I just loved this concept of keep learning all the time. And I knew, since I was born in a little village in the northern Italy, right? The spot over there is where I was born. The picture is what I see from my home house, and it's beautiful, right? But it doesn't give you many opportunities to do what I wanted. So that was my dream and my first ingredient. What is the second ingredient? Or what was the second ingredient for me at that time? It's the opportunity. I realized that I was very good at sport, particularly at playing tennis, which gave me an idea. I said, what about I take action and I convince my parents to let me play tennis so that I can eventually go outside my village and see new things. This is what I did. I actually tried to become a professional tennis player for about 8 years. And I was very happy, right? I was around Italy playing tournaments, but guess what? Then things happen, and I had a knee injury, couldn't play tennis anymore, so I was back at the village. And then what happens? Is this the end of the story? Not really, because luckily you've got ingredient 4 and ingredient 5. Ingredient 4 is that failing is fine. You should actually embrace it, but you need to learn from it and move on, right? And ingredient 5 is about iteration, right? You tried, you fail if you want. By the way, failing, we will see it's a good thing, because failing, if you fail and you learn, like you're one step closer to success. So step 4, you learn. Step 5, you iterate. So what did I do? I was 18. I learned that I couldn't achieve my dreams by playing sports because of my knee. Then I need to look around for new opportunities. The opportunity for me at that time was I was quite good at studying as well. So guess what? I just took action again and convinced my parent to let me go study to Milan. And boom, that was a big success for me, which gave all I wanted at that time. I managed to go to Milan, Brussels. I got again scholarship to go to Brussels in Belgium, Berkeley in the US, where I gained a PhD and an MBA. And I was very happy. Like there was a time where I was very, very, very happy. And you might think now, is that the end of the story? Not really, again, because one problem is fixed or one dream is achieved, then you've got many others coming your way, right? And at that time it was finding a job. I think this relates, or everybody can relate to this problem. You need to make a living. And at that time, I remember just looking around for opportunities. And think about that. What you do when you look for jobs, it's exactly the 5 ingredients that I mentioned before. First, the problem, you need a job. 2, well, opportunities, you look around you for available jobs you can apply to. 3, you apply to them, you take action. 4, you get rejected, because although I think I had quite good jobs and very fortunate, I got rejected more often than I actually got hired. And this is very common, I think, for everyone. So you get rejected, you don't get discouraged, you learn why you get rejected, and you improve whatever it is that you're doing, and then you apply again, right? You iterate. This process can be applied to your personal life and business and startups and organizations. So that's it about me. I just wanted to show you that innovation is something that you can transcend startups. It's a mentality that you can have. What about startups? Since we're doing this event for the incubator, and I'm sure there are many startup founders in the audience. So what about them? First, you need to realize that innovation is not magic. It's what I try to explain, right? It's more about using the right ingredients. And trust me on this, it's not something that only few people can do. It's more about these people that do it well have found the right patterns. So the ingredients, I said them, they are number one, the fact that you need a problem. In design thinking, we call this the empathize and define steps, right? For startups, this means that you need to listen very, very carefully what your customers are telling you, okay? It's very common to see startups building things to try to fix a problem and realizing that it's not actually a real problem, and then customers don't want to pay for it once the solution is built. So you really need to be honest with yourself and listen very carefully, right? Two, it's the ideation. Once you've got the problem, you need to try to find a way to fix that problem. And this involves, if you're a startup, looking around and scanning for opportunities. It can be new tech, it can be new laws coming up, helping you, who knows, right? But you need to be able to look around and scan for opportunities. The ingredient number three is what we call in design thinking, the prototyping phase. You need to be able to build a solution and test it as quickly as possible. In startups, I focus a lot on having a sandbox. It's a safe environment where you can build very quickly solution. And by the way, this is maybe for another session, but I've built my own tools to be able to build products very, very quickly. And it's giving me tremendous advantage right now. But yeah, the point is have a sandbox, build as quickly as you can and test it, okay? Point number four, or ingredient number four, is what I call the measure. You need to do everything in life, especially if you're a startup, with the mindset, I don't care if I succeed the first time I do it, but I need to measure the result and iterate. So you measure the result and then you say, okay, this was good, this was not good, and then you learn from it and then you iterate again. If you have this mentality, success is inevitable. If you can provide it, you can do this for as long as needed. And ingredient five, it's the iterate step in design thinking. And in startups, it's about being relentless and be in for the long haul, right? And this means that you need to make sure that you've got enough budget to survive and make the company move forward, right? If you don't have it, or if you've got only 6 months, it's very tough, right, to make it happen. So what is the real life for startups, or a picture that summarizes that better than all my words? This is what I show startups. You need to be able to go the extra mile. And if you stop, or if you're afraid of failing and then you just turn back and don't persist, you will never succeed. And startups and innovation is not an overnight success, okay? Overnight success doesn't exist. Or it's very rare, at least I haven't seen it in my experience. Also, innovation and startups, the best analogy I can make, it's like running for the Olympics, okay? You're an athlete and you're competing to find product market fit, to find this incredible growth, right? And to make it happen, you need the mentality of an athlete that is competing for the Olympics. Right? You think about these guys, right? They train for 4 years to be able to run 10 seconds at the Olympics. Think how much they train, think how much they fail during their training, right? But they're not afraid of that. They're on a mission. And this is the mentality that you need to have in a startup. Now, what about established companies, right? Established companies, they have employees and they've got an inertia, and they might not be that flexible anymore, like as small startups or individuals. So for larger let's say for established companies, the 5 ingredients of innovation alone are not enough. They need what I define the kitchen of innovation. Other times I called it the playground of innovation, but since I decided I like to cook, I'll stick with my kitchen analogy. So let's say, fine, you've got 5 ingredients: the problem, the opportunity, the action, the fact that you measure the outcome, and then you iterate. But if you've got many people, you also have to make sure that employees or members of your organization, they are aligned with what the company is trying to achieve, right? And this is critical, because if in your organization people don't know what to do, or you have to tell them all the time what to do, you lose momentum and you lose an opportunity to do innovation the right way. Think of SpaceX and Tesla. It's very common if you ask employees of SpaceX and Tesla why they work there, most of them will tell you because we want to save the world from fossil fuel or whatever that is. So these people, when they go to work in the morning, even if you don't tell them what to do, if they take initiatives, it will be initiatives to go in the right direction. So they're pushing the whole machine in the right direction, right? And if they try to do something innovative, it would be something to go in the right direction. So alignment is critical. And we don't have time today. This section only would deserve a full session, like a full webinar. Companies like Spotify is doing this incredibly well. Tesla is doing this incredibly well, and many others. The second element of this kitchen of innovation is a safe environment. Think of a restaurant, right, that wants to be innovative. And then you ask your employees to try new dishes. But what if your employees are afraid that if they try something, the whole kitchen blows up, right? They wouldn't even try because they're afraid of testing new things. This is the concept of safe environment. And in software, we call this a sandbox, okay? And it's your job as a manager of the organization to provide this safe environment for people to be able to test things safely, right? I say what happens in the playground can't harm the company and so forth. So another very important factor. 3, you need to encourage experimentation. I remember, unfortunately, in one of the first jobs that I had, when I remember seeing colleagues of mine trying to do things differently, and the management telling them, why did you do that? You're wasting time trying to do something in a different way. And I can get it from a certain perspective, because you need to execute. But if you don't try to do things in a different way, you will never be able to do something in an innovative way, right? So encourage experimentation. It's incredibly important. Google famously gave 1 day a week to all their employees to do whatever they wanted, right? Just try new things and test new things, no instructions. And it was very powerful. Like, Google was a very good place to experiment and build new products and try new things. And I believe it's why they're successful in the first place. The 4th point is resources. Same as the analogy to the kitchen, right? Fine, you've got the ingredients, but if you've got no frying pan or, you know, dishes and plates and stuff, how can you ever prepare good dishes? It's just not possible. And for organizations, same thing. If you don't provide your employees the right resources to be able to innovate, no way they can do innovation successfully. And this has to do with the budget. It sounds funny, but I've seen managers thinking, this year I'm gonna give the organization $200,000 to do innovation. This is the wrong mindset, because innovation doesn't happen in 2 weeks or 3 weeks or with $200,000. Innovation happens when it's meant to be, right? And if you create the right playground, or the kitchen of innovation, as I call it, it will happen sometime, right? But you don't know when. Innovation is about doing things that are not there yet. So how can you potentially decide when you will find it? You just can't. So budget has to be a constant flow in the organization and in the kitchen of innovation. Let me just check how we're going in time. Good, it's like we're on track. So let me give you an example, guys, on the importance of this innovation kitchen, or the kitchen of innovation, okay? Let's say you've got 2 different companies, company A and company B. They both have the same budget for innovation in a given year, $1 million, right? And company A has a success rate of 50%, 50%, which means that out of 2 ideas that they test, right, they are successful with 1, which means 1 successful commercialized, for instance, right? Company B, they've got a success rate of 10%, which means that out of 10 ideas, they have one successful. Based on what I'm telling you right now, which company would you invest into? I think most of you would say company A, because they're more successful in the way they, like in every iteration, right? What if now I told you that company A, due to the fact that their kitchen of innovation is not that efficient, you can imagine the kitchen a little bit messy, so things or the people there are not really able to do things effectively, so they're slow pretty much, right? So company A, they're very successful in what they do, but they can test only 4 ideas or 4 dishes in the kitchen because it's very slow, the kitchen. Company B, they've got a fantastic kitchen, everything works well, communication-wise and so forth. And they're able to test 40 ideas in the same time frame. Now, which organization would you invest into? I think it's purely math right now, right? If you do the math, you will have to, you would want to invest in company B, because company B will have 4 ideas, successful ideas in the market instead of 2 of company A. This shows you that purely in terms of numbers and math, by being able to iterate more often than others, you've got more chances to succeed. And by the way, this is real also for your personal life. And I try to follow this logic myself and try different things and learn and iterate. So company B will be more successful. This example doesn't even take into account the fact that every time you try something, you learn from it. Okay, so this was purely math, but company B, every time they try something, they will learn. So the success rate for company B will go up with every iteration as well. So bottom line, you have to embrace this mentality of being able to try and test new things. What about large enterprises? Like we've seen individuals, we've seen startups, established organizations. What about large enterprises? Large enterprises, they still do innovation themselves, like Google does it, like no doubt, Amazon, Apple, same thing, Microsoft. But they rely also on investing into small startups, right? They're big corporations. One way they can use to innovate is by partnering with small and successful and promising startups. I do feel that there is a lot to do in this space. I might give some of you some ideas, but in bringing together startups and large organizations, I think there is a lot to do there. And this whole sector is not yet fully understood, I think. But anyhow, the dots, I'm actually losing the thread now. The dots that you see here around GV, Google Ventures, are the investments that Google made in 2019. This shows you how even Google spread their bets. Does Google believe that all these startups will be successful? No way, right? But some of them will, and some of them will be part of the Google ecosystem in the near future, right? So the importance of trial and error is present everywhere. And giving you the opportunity to do just this is critical for you to be able to succeed. Now, before we move forward, I think it's important to understand the difference between at least 2 types of innovation. Again, if you type types of innovation on Google, you will find many, but I'd like to distinguish at least 2 of them. One is incremental innovation, right? Which is what most companies do, and I think pretty much everyone does it, which is you've got a product or service, you try to improve it linearly, right? And this is good because you extend the life of that product by some time, by making it a little bit better, but it's still about the present. You're not really creating anything for the future, right? Disruptive innovation, it's about flipping the table upside down completely and come up with something totally new. Think of changing the rules of the game. And this is incredibly important for startups. Startups, when they do something, they have to think, is my solution improving current existing solutions by 10x, so 10 times better than what's existing right now? The answer is yes, then you're probably disruptive, right? And disruptive innovation, it's about the future. We will focus on this in the following of my presentation today. The point here is that companies have to embrace disruptive innovation to survive, okay? And we're gonna see exactly this in the following slides. How to recognize disruptive ideas and disruptive innovation. They usually come from a deeper understanding, right? Ask yourself, what is it that you understand about whatever you're doing that others just don't get, right? If you can't answer this question, you might just be delusional, right? It's not something real, but it's something that you made up, right? But if you really understand it and you can answer this question, it might be something very disruptive and very deep. Steve Jobs said something similar to, you need to show your clients what they want because they don't know it, right? And you need that kind of understanding about whatever you're doing. The second trait of disruptive innovation is that it's often counterintuitive, okay? If the idea looks too logic, it's often not disruptive enough. And this is what I remember thinking about Airbnb in 2009. I thought that it would never succeed. And I just didn't get it. I just didn't get that the world was asking for something like this, right? But I remember thinking, no way I'm gonna open my house to strangers, right? Especially when I'm not there. Well, I was totally wrong. I didn't get it, right? And these guys got it, although they went through very difficult times, and almost all VCs, so venture capital in the US, turned them down for 2 years, right? But they kept going because they believed in it and they succeeded. Disruption also comes very often from doing things deep and narrow and grow organically. You need to look, especially startups, you need to look for organic growth. If you push your product to customers, it's often not disruptive, right? Disruption, look around you, always comes because it grows organically. So build something very, very good that a few people love, not like, but love, and then let it grow organically by them talking to their friends or peers, right? Look at Facebook, right? I would like to remember that Facebook started as a internal platform at Stanford, and it grew exponentially. All the big companies we have right now, or many, I remember being the first one to promote them, not because I was paid to do that, but because they were great and I was telling my friends to use them. So yeah, focus on that. Let's finish this section on a couple of, like a few takeaways, okay, about innovation. First, it's about constantly trying to achieve dreams and fix problems. Without dreams and problems, what are you gonna improve or disrupt, right? It's difficult. It's about using the right ingredients, and it's about having or building an effective kitchen of innovation. It's not an overnight success, but a constant process of trial and error, and you want to be able to sustain this process as long as required. It's about enabling innovation more than doing innovation, especially if you're the manager in a organization, okay? And then the point that leads me to the following of my presentation, it's required to remain relevant long-term, right? So why to do innovation in the first place? As we said, so what time is it? I think we skipped the video. Sorry guys, we'll skip the video. A couple of minutes slower than I thought. So the point is, if you don't do innovation, or if you don't embrace it, you disappear. There's simply no other way to say it, and I'll show you. Take the example of Kodak. In the late 90s, Kodak was the biggest analog camera manufacturer by far, okay? Who was around that time the biggest digital camera manufacturer? Does anybody know? Anybody wants to post in the chat what they think or who they think was the biggest digital camera manufacturer around that time? Let me tell you. It was actually Nokia, right? And that's right. In 1995, a mobile phone company would sell more digital cameras than Kodak. So the digital aspect of it disrupted Kodak, right? But that's not all. What happens afterwards? Beginning of the 21st century, who was about to disrupt the camera manufacturing ecosystems once again? Anybody? Anybody knows? Give you 10 seconds while I sip some water. So what about Samsung and Apple with their smartphones? For you to appreciate this, you have to look at this graph, right? In gray, you see the units sold of analog cameras, right? Which is, let's say, Kodak, okay? And if you're in 1995, you see the evolution of sales of analog cameras, and you think everything is going fine. I'm fantastic. I'm on the top of the world, and it's great. Well, you couldn't be more wrong than that. Nokia came in. Nokia started to produce digital cameras, and their sales went up like this, and Kodak sales went down, and eventually Kodak disappeared, and Nokia was booming, right? But then again, Nokia, remember, they were the best at producing digital products, not software, digital, right? And they focus on that. They were around 2008, 2009, they were still at the top. And they forgot that they needed to embrace innovation once more. And who disrupted them? Companies like Apple and Samsung that focused on software and applications more than electronics. Electronic was good, but it's not what people wanted. People wanted software and applications. Smartphones got it, right? And look to the right, if you can see the evolution. This is just mind-blowing, right? And so far, smartphones won the game. So far, who knows what's going to happen in 10 years, right? But this is the point that I'm trying to make. In 10, 15 years, industry got disrupted twice, right? And big companies went from dominating to disappearing, pretty much. This image just shows the sales around 2010 of Nokia, where you can clearly see that in a couple of years, they disappeared. This one is the CEO of Nokia telling everyone, sorry, we didn't get it, pretty much. And if you think, I should introduce this slide maybe a little bit better. Like, do you think that this is only an example that happened in the camera industry? Well, think again. Let me give you a few examples here just very quickly, okay? Western Union, 1878, they had more than 7,500 offices, 12,000 employees, 200,000 miles of cable, right? They were dominating, right? Think if you're the CEO of Western Union at that time, how can you be disrupted, right? Does this guy ring a bell? Does this name tells you anything? What about the telephone, right? Do you want to know what Western Union said about the telephone in an internal memo? Take a look at this. I read it out because it makes me smile every time I read this. This telephone has too many shortcomings to be seriously considered as a means of communication. The device is inherently of no value to us, right? Think about that. And if I was the CEO of Western Union with my mindset now, I would embrace the telephone just for the sake of trying to see what that is, right? I would spend money and resources to try to see what that is and how we can leverage it. Western Union simply decided not to do anything with it, and they never went into the mobile phone industry. They just lost that war. Again, a few examples, and I'll finish with that. This concept of disruption happens all the time. Blockbuster, 2010, market leader, 5,200 stores worldwide. What happened? Netflix, right? Then encyclopedia, like Britannica or other paper encyclopedia. What happened? Well, what happened? Google, Wikipedia, and so many others. What about the hotel industry, right? Same thing, Airbnb and the likes. What about the taxi industry, right? Uber. I think you got the point right now. So what is the common thread there? The common thread is these companies I mentioned that got disrupted, they rested on their strength and didn't realize that in a changing world, the real strength is not to be strong, but it's being able to constantly innovate and adapt. Okay, so the strength is adapt and innovate. Remember this, because especially in this concept, it's going to be the trend for the next 15 to 20 years, company being disrupted, and then the company that disrupted gets disrupted, and so forth. Let's spend a couple of minutes and we'll finish with this in talking about the state of technology. Okay? Get the trend, okay, and try to see it. Right? Late 18th century, steam engine, which is the switch from human to mechanical work. Industries such as textile, transportation, oil extractors, they won big, right? Mid 20th century, digital revolution, the switch from mechanical to electronics pretty much. Who won there? Companies that were exploiting and taking advantage of electronics and software. So IBM, Apple, Microsoft, they won big. Nowadays, we live in what we call the software is eating the world ecosystem, right? And who's winning? Well, companies that leverage information, Google, Amazon, Apple, Microsoft, and so forth. And we say that information is the new oil. This is where we live right now. What about the future, right? Which is what we want, right? We want to be successful in the future. Well, the reality is that nobody knows 100%, right? There are not one major technological shift. There are many technologies coming up and disrupting everything. Artificial intelligence, virtual reality, blockchain, quantum computing, and so forth. So who will win in this new ecosystem? It's companies and organizations that will be able to change, adapt, and constantly innovate. That's the only way. And again, I've got a video, but we'll skip it. There are major technologies. I've mentioned a few of them: quantum computing, machine learning, virtual reality, blockchain. You've got drones, IoT, and 3D printing as well. And I'm sure I'm forgetting some of them. Very quickly, let's see what I believe are the four major ones. Machine learning is about machines that are able to learn by themselves. Okay, you give them a target and they just learn how to make it happen. It's incredible. And if we had more time, I would love to, I would have loved to talk more about this because I love the topic. Let me just tell you that that machine learning requires data. And the fact that nowadays we've got a lot of people talking about machine learning, it's that we've got so much more data that we didn't have 20 years ago or 10 years ago. I've read somewhere, I don't have the reference, but if you want, I can find it. 80% of the world information got created in the last couple of years, right? And this trend is exponential and it's not gonna end anytime soon. So machine learning and information will be there for the next many years, disrupting everything: manufacturing, retail, healthcare, travel and hospitality, financial services, and so forth. The blockchain, without going into any details, think of a society where you don't need central authorities to bring trust in ecosystems, okay? You trust and you take it for granted, like the government to validate your passport, right? And banks to make sure that, you know, if you have that amount of money in your bank account, it's the real amount of money you have in the bank account. So you trust these central entities, right? Well, with the blockchain, you can actually decentralize all of this, right? And the trust factor is provided by the technology, okay? And I'll leave you with this because otherwise it will become too technical and it's not what we want today. The most successful application for the blockchain so far, which is probably the only one I know that is very, very successful, is cryptocurrencies, the blockchain. Every other, I can say, every other sector is being disrupted. I don't know any of them as big success stories so far, like huge success stories. But in the next 10 to 15 years, I expect this to be a major trend and technology will be there, startup will be getting better and better, and there will be new applications. virtual reality and augmented reality. I'm not an expert in this topic. I think you can picture what they are. I can just say that I used one headset last generation a few months ago, and my mind got blown away about the quality of these new headsets. So what can it be in the future? Like, I might be here right now in a virtual experience instead of looking at a screen. You might interact with me through virtual reality. Like, it's crazy the number of applications you will be able to have. Medical training, retail, repair, maintenance, tourism, you name it. Let me finish with the last concept, which is quantum computing. Having done a PhD in nanotechnologies, I have to finish with this, right? And again, without going into the details of this, just know that the quantum world is very weird, and things in the quantum world can be 1, 0, or both at the same time. It's the way it is, okay? So I know it's mind-blowing, but it's the law of nature. And this aspect can make it possible to build computers based on this effect, and the software and algorithm associated to quantum computing will be so much more efficient to the point that it will be possible to do things in a few seconds for what currently takes many years to accomplish. Okay, so this is the what's going to happen, and there are already quantum computers. It's not mainstream yet, but I expect this to be a big deal in the next, again, 10, 15 to 20 years. And I think I'm going to finish with this. And I'll leave you with one question. Are you ready to embrace innovation and succeed using the right ingredients and mindset? I hope you liked it, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you so much, Enrico. That was really interesting. I have to say the quantum computing went over my head, but still time to learn. I really enjoyed how you used the 3 ingredients in your personal life as well to travel and to reach your goals. I wish I was that thinking that way at 7 or 8 years old, but I'm 32, I can apply it now. Do we have any questions in the chat box? I might just ask one and then go to the chat box. As a lecturer, do you believe Australian education institutions are adequately preparing students to be more, sorry, what's the word? Innovative?
Oh, good question. If you get me, okay, I need to answer I need to take a step back and answer in a slightly different way. I've studied in universities in at least 1, 2, 3, 4 different countries. And I think every country and every system is good for some things and not good for other things. If I had to, I would answer your question by saying that if I could, I would revisit the whole, university system, because I think that universities should prepare people for the change that is happening more than giving you plain knowledge. So I would literally change pretty much everything. In terms of Australia, what I have seen is it's good, and I'm not sure if it really prepares people and students for the future workforce, but they're trying to. And the university where I am involved, which is Torrens, by the way, here in Australia, they put a lot of effort in innovative programs. You can really see it, and I've never seen this in my life. I studied in very good universities, but they were kind of static. I see in the university I'm involved with right now, here in Australia, a big dynamic that I really, really like, because they try new things and they come up with new solutions. And I really, really like this mindset.
Great, thank you. And what technologies do you think are likely to drive the next wave of growth in Australia?
Another good question. Do we really have to leave any technology out? I certainly see a lot of opportunities in the payment systems. You know, there are big success stories right now in that ecosystem, and a few startups are rising. I see opportunities in the education system as well. I think, as I said, there are many things moving. So any new technology that help the education system is welcome. Other than that, do we really have to mention only one technology? Why not be brave and try to set up innovation the right way and then see what comes out of it? Should I remind us that the biggest success stories are companies like Atlassian, and what they do is actually enabling other companies to innovate, like with tools for software developers, for instance. So.
Thank you. We have a question here from Felipe. The PM said that we should be good tech adopters instead of creators. Do you think this is a risk for Australia?
So instead, the PM told, yeah, we should be good tech adopters instead of creators. Well, I don't want to go against the Prime Minister, right? And I don't know how to manage a country. So people should stick to what they know. I know how to build innovative product. I don't know necessarily how to manage a country. So if he said that, he has its reasons to say that. Okay, so provided I had the same information, maybe I would say the same thing. If you ask me personally, that looks strange. Okay, I think any successful country I've seen, take countries in Northern Europe, right? They became successful by focusing on innovation massively. That's the answer I can give you. But as I said, I'm not Prime Minister, and I don't know everything, right?
We could have a Enrico for PM. That could be our next event.
Yeah.
Does anyone want to come off mute and ask Enrico a question? I can see we've got a few of our startups in the call today. Any questions for Enrico? Oh, there you go, Diane. Said she'd vote for you for PM.
Thank you, Diane.
Another question from Felipe. For people that want to start a career in innovation, what are good entry-level opportunities?
I think anything that gives you a broad overview of what's required to innovate. So business analyst, is something that I particularly like as a job. I would maybe start like that because it makes you see different things. But again, I need to answer the question with taking a step back. If you want to go into innovation, ask yourself what innovation is, and then put you in a framework where you can play with it, right? And whatever that is. And if you want to be agile and if you want to work in innovation, I would say work in startups, work in innovative startups that are growing, and do not focus on making as much money as you can at the beginning, especially at the beginning of your career. Focus on learning as much as you can. And by doing that, you will understand what you like more than anything else. And then you will spend your career doing what you like and learning even more and sharpening your tools, I guess.
Thank you, Enrico. And we might end on this question from Pablo. So what's next for you? And
what's next?
Your next project?
Oh, my next project. I'm actually very busy right now with my current project. We launched a new startup in March or April this year, and we've just raised seed money. So I will be busy with this project that is called CloudOlive, which is a single place for companies and organizations to be able to discover, purchase, and optimize any kind of SaaS software that they use. And so I'll be busy with this for the next year or so. If you ask me about my next venture in some time in the future, I would love to do something that has a big impact in the world. Okay, I would like to just do something meaningful. Not that what I do now doesn't, but let's say even more. Okay, so let's talk again in a few years and see if we can do something together.
We'll have to get you back next year to see how you've gone. Well, thank you very much for a great presentation. And thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.
No problem. We'll make the recording available to those that have attended the event today, so you can just look back and take your time to listen to the event again.
Fantastic. Thank you, everyone, and for all of you joining the session. And yeah, I'll see you hopefully sometime soon, and plenty of good luck to everyone with whatever you want to achieve and do in the future. So, bye, everyone.
You too. Thank you, Enrico.
Bye.
Bye-bye.